Indoor and ornamental plants, 1 through 100. Pothos, a heart-shaped leaf on a trailing vine. Spider plant, narrow green leaves with white stripes. Snake plant, vertical leaves with yellow margins. Peace lily, dark green foliage with a single white bract. Aloe vera, thick succulent leaves with serrated edges. Jade plant, round fleshy leaves on a woody stem. English ivy, 5-lobed leaves climbing a stone wall. Boston fern, arched fronds with small green leaflets. Rubber tree, broad waxy leaves of a deep maroon color. Zebra plant, striped leaves that grow in a steady pattern. ZZ plant, waxy oval leaves on a thick upright stem. Fiddle leaf fig, large veined leaves shaped like a violin. Dracæna, thin pointed leaves with a red edge. Cast iron plant, tough dark leaves that grow in low light. Prayer plant, leaves that fold upward during the night. Swiss cheese plant, large leaves with natural circular holes. African violet, fuzzy green leaves with purple blossoms. Begonia, asymmetrical leaves with a waxy texture. Calafia, patterned leaves with a deep purple underside. Croton, variegated leaves in shades of yellow and red. Asparagus fern, feathery foliage on a thin green vine. Bird of paradise, large broad leaves on long stiff stalks. Parlor palm, delicate fronds on a small indoor trunk. Christmas cactus, segmented stems with pink flowers. Hoyas, thick waxy leaves on a climbing vine. Air plant, spiky gray leaves that require no soil. Philodendron, glossy green leaves that drape downward. String of pearls, small green spheres on a thin thread. String of hearts, small heart-shaped leaves on a purple vine. Burro's tail, overlapping succulent leaves in a long braid. Echeveria, rosette-shaped succulent with blue-gray leaves. Haworthia, small pointed leaves with white bumps. Money tree, 5-lobed leaves on a braided trunk. Yucca, sharp sword-like leaves on a woody base. Nerve plant, small leaves with a network of white veins. Polka dot plant, green leaves spotted with pink or white. Aluminum plant, leaves with silver metallic patches. Oxalis, triangular purple leaves that resemble butterflies. Ponytail palm, long curly leaves atop a bulbous trunk. Creeping fig, tiny round leaves that cling to surfaces. Schefflera, leaves arranged like the spokes of an umbrella. Bromeliad, a central cup of leaves with a bright flower. Kalanchoe, scalloped succulent leaves with clusters of blooms. Crown of thorns, woody stems with sharp spines and red bracts. Peperomia, thick rippled leaves on a short red stem. Mistletoe cactus, thin hair-like stems that hang in clusters. Maidenhair fern, small fan-shaped leaflets on black stems. Staghorn fern, forked fronds that grow on wooden plaques. Kangaroo paw, fuzzy tubular flowers on a long leafless stem. Lipstick plant, tubular red flowers emerging from dark calyxes. Goldfish plant, orange flowers shaped like small fish. Chenille plant, red fuzzy catkins hanging from green leaves. Areca palm, upright yellow-green fronds in a dense clump. Majesty palm, wide arching fronds on a thick base. Kentia palm, slow-growing fronds with a dark green hue. Sago palm, stiff feather-like leaves on a textured trunk. Umbrella papyrus, long stalks topped with a circle of bracts. Venus flytrap, hinged leaves that close on small insects. Pitcher plant, tubular leaves that hold digestive fluid. Sundew, leaves covered in sticky, glistening hairs. Cobra lily, hooded leaves that resemble a snake. Bladderwort, tiny underwater sacs on a fine thread. Butterwort, fleshy leaves with a greasy, adhesive surface. Firecracker plant, thin leafless stems with red tubular flowers. Shrimp plant, overlapping bracts that look like a shrimp. Blue star fern, glaucous blue fronds with lobed edges. Rabbit's foot fern, fuzzy rhizomes that crawl over the pot. Button fern, small round leaflets on a dark stem. Bird's nest fern, wide uncut leaves in a central rosette. Flapjack succulent, flat round leaves with red edges. Panda plant, fuzzy gray leaves with brown spots. Living stone, small succulents that look like pebbles. Donkey's ears, long pointed leaves with purple spots. Mother of millions, narrow leaves with plantlets at the tips. Agave, large thick leaves with a sharp terminal spine. Century plant, massive blue-gray leaves in a heavy clump. Foxtail agave, smooth curved leaves with no spines. Elephant ear, enormous heart-shaped leaves on thick stalks. Calamondin, small round oranges on a dark green bush. Mayer lemon, thin-skinned lemons on a thorny branch. Bay laurel, aromatic stiff leaves used in cooking. Dwarf olive, small silvery leaves on a twisted trunk. Geranium, circular leaves with a distinct herbal scent. Petunia, trumpet-shaped flowers with a velvet texture. Marigold, riffled orange flowers with a pungent aroma. Zinnia, multi-layered petals on a stiff, hairy stem. Antirrhinum, flowers that open when the sides are pressed. Cosmos, delicate feathery leaves with daisy-like blooms. Impatiens, smooth stems with soft water-filled leaves. Pansy, flat-faced flowers with 3 distinct colors. Dusty Miller, silvery felt-like leaves with jagged edges. Sweet Alyssum, tiny white flowers that smell like honey. Lobelia, intense blue flowers on a low-growing mat. Verbena, small flat-topped clusters of colorful florets. Lantana, rounded clusters of flowers that change color. Heliotrope, dark wrinkled leaves with vanilla-scented blooms. Fuchsia, pendulous flowers with a bell-shaped shape. Bougainvillea, thorny vines with paper-thin, colorful bracts. Wisteria, woody vines with hanging purple flower racemes. Star jasmine, small white flowers with a heavy, sweet scent.
2. Deciduous forest trees, 101 to 200. White oak, gray bark with deeply lobed leaves. Red oak, pointed leaf lobes with a reddish autumn tint. Sugar maple, 5 lobed leaves used for syrup. Silver maple, leaves with a pale silver underside. Red maple, small red flowers in early spring. American beech, smooth gray bark that stays clear. European beech, dark purple leaves on a massive trunk. Paper birch, thin white bark that peels in layers. River birch, salmon-colored bark that flakes away. Yellow birch, golden bark with a winter green scent. Black walnut, dark furrowed bark and compound leaves. English walnut, smooth bark and edible round nuts. Butternut, gray bark and oblong oily nuts. Shagbark hickory, bark that peels in long vertical strips. Pignut hickory, smooth bark and small bitter nuts. Pecan, long compound leaves and thin-shelled nuts. American elm, vase-shaped canopy with serrated leaves. Slippery elm, inner bark that is moist and sticky. Hackberry, warty bark and small purple berries. Black cherry, dark flaky bark and small tart fruits. Chokecherry, small white flower spikes and bitter berries. American sycamore, mottled bark that looks like camouflage. London plane, crossbred tree with a high tolerance for pollution. Sweet gum, star-shaped leaves and spiky seed balls. Tulip tree, large yellow flowers shaped like tulips. Southern magnolia, large waxy leaves and white fragrant flowers. Star magnolia, small tree with multi-petaled flowers. Cucumber tree, greenish flowers and cucumber-shaped fruit. White ash, compound leaves that turn purple in fall. Green ash, fast-growing tree with a rounded crown. Black ash, wood that can be split into thin baskets. Basswood, heart-shaped leaves and fragrant yellow flowers. Little leaf linden, small leaves and a dense conical shape. Horse chestnut, large palmate leaves and prickly fruit. Ohio buckeye, small palmate leaves and dark brown seeds. Yellow buckeye, smooth husks and pale yellow flowers. Common catalpa, large heart-shaped leaves and long pods. Honey locust, large branched thorns and flat seed pods. Black locust, fragrant white flowers and durable wood. Kentucky coffee tree, large compound leaves and hard seeds. Ironwood, very hard wood with bark like shredded paper. Blue beech, smooth fluted bark that looks like mussel. Sassafras, 3 different leaf shapes on one branch. Witch hazel, yellow crinkled flowers that bloom in winter. Box elder, a maple tree with compound leaves. Norway maple, large dark leaves with milky sap in the stem. Japanese maple, small delicate leaves with many lobes. Ginkgo, primitive fan-shaped leaves on a tall tree. White poplar, leaves with a white felt-like underside. Quaking aspen, flattened leaf stalks that tremble in wind. Big-tooth aspen, coarsely toothed leaves on a pale trunk. Eastern cottonwood, thick grooved bark and fluffy seeds. Black willow, dark bark and long narrow leaves. Weeping willow, long drooping branches that touch the ground. Pussy willow, soft gray catkins that appear in spring. White willow, pale leaves on a wide spreading crown. Alnus, small cones on a tree that likes wet soil. Hazelnut, multi-stemmed shrub with edible brown nuts. Common pear, white flowers and a pyramid-shaped crown. Apple tree, spreading branches with fragrant blossoms. Crabapple tree, small tart fruits and colorful spring flowers. Peach tree, long leaves and fuzzy orange fruit. Plum tree, smooth bark and dark purple fruit. Apricot tree, heart-shaped leaves and early pink flowers. Persimmon, blocky bark and orange astringent fruit. Pawpaw, large tropical-looking leaves and custard fruit. Mulberry, variously lobed leaves and sweet berry fruit. Osage orange, thorny branches and large bumpy green fruit. Serviceberry, early white flowers and small blue berries. Hawthorn, thorns on branches with small red fruits. Mountain ash, clusters of orange berries and compound leaves. American elderberry, large flat clusters of white flowers. Sumac, velvety red fruit clusters on a shrubby tree. Poison sumac, white berries and compound leaves in swamps. Boxwood, small evergreen leaves on a dense shrub. Privet, dark green leaves used for formal hedges. Burning bush, winged stems and brilliant red fall foliage. Common lilac, heart-shaped leaves and purple spikes. Forsythia, bright yellow flowers before the leaves appear. Rose of Sharon, large hibiscus-like flowers in late summer. Hydrangea, large globe-shaped flower heads. Viburnum, deeply veined leaves and dark blue berries. Dogwood, 4 large white bracts around a tiny flower. Red osier dogwood, bright red stems that show in winter. Gray dogwood, white berries on red stalks. Flowering dogwood, horizontal branching with white flowers. Honeyberry, small yellow flowers and elongated blue fruit. Common buckthorn, dark bark with small black berries. Chokeberry, glossy leaves and astringent black fruit. Buttonbush, round white flower balls in wet areas. Smoke tree, feathery pink flower clusters like smoke. 7 sunflower, peeling bark and late white blossoms. Japanese zelkova,
bark that peels to reveal orange patches. Dawn redwood, a deciduous conifer with soft needles. Bald cypress, needles that turn brown and fall in winter. Larch, soft needles in clusters that drop in fall. Tamarack, a northern larch that grows in bogs. Katsura, heart-shaped leaves that smell like caramel in fall. Golden rain tree, yellow flower panicles and lantern-like pods. Tree of heaven, rapidly growing tree with a strong odor.
Coniferous and evergreen trees, 201 to 300. Eastern white pine, long soft needles in bundles of 5. Red pine, long brittle needles in bundles of 2. Jack pine, short twisted needles and curved cones. Pitch pine, stiff needles in 3s with bark sprouts. Ponderosa pine, tall tree with bark that smells like vanilla. Lodgepole pine, tall straight trunk with short needles. Sugar pine, longest cones of any pine tree. Bristlecone pine, very old tree with short dense needles. Shortleaf pine, small cones and needles in pairs. Loblolly pine, deeply furrowed bark in the southern forests. Longleaf pine, very long needles and large cones. Virginia pine, small scrubby pine with short needles. Mugo pine, low-growing shrubby pine from the mountains. Austrian pine, dark bark and stiff dark needles. Scots pine, orange-red bark on the upper trunk. Japanese black pine, stiff needles and irregular shape. Norway spruce, drooping branchlets and long cones. White spruce, short needles with a pungent odor. Black spruce, small tree with short needles in bogs. Blue spruce, sharp needles with a silvery blue wax. Red spruce, yellow-green needles on a conical tree. Sitka spruce, sharp needles on a massive coastal tree. Engelmann spruce, high-altitude tree with soft needles. Douglas fir, flat needles and cones with 3-pointed bracts. Balsam fir, very fragrant needles on a symmetrical tree. Fraser fir, symmetrical tree with silvery needle bottoms. White fir, long flat needles with a citrus scent. Grand fir, very flat needle arrangement in 2 rows. Noble fir, stiff needles that curve upward. Subalpine fir, narrow spire-like crown in the mountains. Eastern hemlock, tiny needles with 2 white lines beneath. Western hemlock, drooping leader at the top of the tree. Mountain hemlock, thicker needles that grow all around the twig. Eastern red cedar, scale-like leaves and blue berry cones. Western red cedar, large tree with flat braided foliage. Atlantic white cedar, scale-like leaves in swampy soil. Northern white cedar, flat fan-like branches on a small tree. Incense cedar, bark that smells like pencils when crushed. Port Orford cedar, fern-like foliage on a tall trunk. Leyland cypress, fast-growing hybrid used for screening. Arizona cypress, gray-green scale-like leaves. Monterey cypress, wind-swept tree on the California coast. Bald cypress, conifer that grows knees in the water. Giant sequoia, very thick spongy bark and small cones. Coast redwood, world's tallest tree with flat needles. Japanese cedar, needle-like leaves that spiral around twigs. Monkey puzzle tree, sharp triangular leaves covering every branch. Norfolk Island pine, symmetrical tiers of soft branches. Cook pine, tall narrow tree that leans toward the equator. Cowrie pine, massive trunk with broad leathery leaves. Yew, dark green needles with red poisonous berries. Irish yew,
narrow columnar shape with dark foliage. Japanese yew, spreading shrub with dark needles. Podocarpus, long leathery needles on a tropical conifer. Juniper, prickly needles and blue aromatic berries. Common juniper, low-growing shrub with sharp needles. Creeping juniper, ground cover with blue-green foliage. Rocky Mountain juniper, pyramid-shaped tree with scale leaves. Alligator juniper, bark that looks like alligator skin. Deodar cedar, drooping branches and needle clusters. Cedar of Lebanon, wide flat-topped crown on an old tree. Atlas cedar, blue-tinted needles in short clusters. Japanese larch, deciduous conifer with a wide crown. European larch, tall tree with yellow autumn needles. Stone pine, umbrella-shaped crown and edible pine nuts. Aleppo pine, light green needles on a hardy tree. Monterey pine, fast-growing pine with needles in threes. Bristlecone fir, a rare fir with sharp needles and bristly cones. Pacific silver fir, needles that point forward and upward. Hinoki cypress, dark green foliage in wavy fans. Saguaro cypress, fine thread-like foliage on some cultivars. American holly, spiny evergreen leaves and red berries. English holly, very glossy leaves with sharp spines. Winterberry, deciduous holly that loses leaves in winter. Inkberry, evergreen holly with black berries. Blue holly, dark blue-green foliage on a shrub. Mountain laurel, glossy leaves and cup-shaped pink flowers. Rhododendron, large leathery leaves and bell-shaped flowers. Azalea, smaller evergreen leaves and colorful blooms. Pacific madrone, red bumpy fruit and peeling bark. Strawberry tree, red bumpy fruit and peeling bark. Manzanita, smooth mahogany bark and small oval leaves. Eucalyptus, peeling bark and round silvery leaves. Rainbow eucalyptus, multicolored bark in strips. Lemon-scented gum, leaves that smell like lemon. Silver dollar tree, round blue-gray leaves used in floral sets. Live oak, evergreen oak with leathery, unlobed leaves. Cork oak, very thick bark used for commercial cork. Holm oak, dark evergreen leaves with a pale underside. Bay tree, stiff aromatic leaves on an evergreen shrub. Camphor tree, glossy leaves that smell of camphor. Cinnamon tree, inner bark that produces cinnamon spice. Loquat, large wrinkled leaves and yellow fruit. Kumquat, small evergreen tree with tiny citrus fruit. Sweet orange, white flowers and round orange fruit. Key lime, small thorny tree with acidic green fruit. Grapefruit, large yellow citrus on a dark green tree. Avocado, large leathery leaves and oily green fruit. Macadamia, long serrated nuts and hard-shelled nuts. Coffee arabica, glossy green leaves and red berries.
Grasses, grains, and sedges, 301 to 400. Kentucky bluegrass, fine-textured lawn grass. Perennial ryegrass, fast-growing bunch grass. Tall fescue, coarse durable grass for lawns. Fine fescue, narrow blades that tolerate shade. Bermuda grass, spreading grass for warm climates. Zoysia grass, slow-growing dense lawn grass. St. Augustine grass, wide blades for coastal areas. Centipede grass, low-maintenance creeping grass. Buffalo grass, native prairie grass for dry areas. Blue grama, grass with flowers that look like eyelashes. Side oats grama, small seeds hanging from one side of the stem. Little blue stem, blue-green grass that turns red in winter. Big blue stem, tall grass with turkey-foot flower heads. Indian grass, golden feather-like flower heads. Switchgrass, tall clumps with airy seed heads. Prairie dropseed, fine mounded grass with a faint scent. Purple lovegrass, low clouds of purple seed heads. Timothy grass, tall stems with cylindrical heads. Orchard grass, clumping grass used for hay. Smooth brome, spreading grass with flat blades. Quackgrass, aggressive weedgrass with long rhizomes. Crabgrass, spreading weed that grows in hot weather. Foxtail grass, seed heads that look like green tails. Barnyard grass, coarse grass with purplish seeds. Yellow foxtail, grass with yellow hairs on the seed head. Wild oats, grass with drooping oat-like seeds. Common wheat, golden stalks with heavy seed heads. Durum wheat, hard wheat used for pasta. Barley, seed heads with long bristles or awns. Oats, open panicles of hanging seeds. Rye, tall slender stalks with narrow seed heads. Triticale, a hybrid grain between wheat and rye. Rice, sown in flooded paddies with drooping seeds. Wild rice, tall aquatic grass with dark grains. Corn or maize, thick stalks with large leaf blades and ears. Sweet corn, corn grown for fresh consumption. Popcorn, corn with a hard moisture-resistant hull. Sorghum, tall stalks with round seed clusters. Pearl millet, grain with a thick spike-like head. Foxtail millet, small seeds used for bird seed. Proso millet, fast-growing grain for dry climates. Sugar cane, giant grass with stalks full of sugar juice. Bamboo, woody, hollow stems that grow very fast. Timber bamboo, large, thick stalks used for building. Moso bamboo, giant bamboo with fuzzy green stems. Golden bamboo, stems that turn yellow in the sun. Black bamboo, stems that turn dark ebony with age. Heavenly bamboo, not a true bamboo, has red berries. Pampas grass, giant clumps with white plumes. Miscanthus, tall ornamental grass with silver plumes. Feather reed grass, upright narrow stalks with tan heads. Fountain grass, arching stems with fuzzy flower spikes. Blue oat grass, mounded tufts of stiff blue blades. Blue fescue, tiny mounds of hair-like blue grass. Northern sea oats, flat drooping seed heads. Sweetgrass, aromatic grass used in braiding. Lemongrass, tropical grass with a strong lemon scent. Citronella grass, grass used to produce insect repellent. Vetiver, grass with deep roots used for perfume. Job's tears, grass with seeds that look like gray beads. Papyrus, aquatic sedge with a triangular stem. Common tussock sedge, grass-like plant in wet mounds. Fox sedge, sedge with flower heads like foxtails. Palm sedge, sedge with leaves arranged like palm fronds. Blue wood sedge, wide blue-tinted leaves in shade. Soft rush, cylindrical green stems in wet areas. Path rush, small tough rush that grows on trails. Bulrush, tall aquatic plant with a brown seed head. Great bulrush, very tall stem in deep water. Woolgrass, a sedge with fuzzy brown seed clusters. Cattail, long leaves with a brown sausage-shaped head. Narrow-leaf cattail, thinner leaves and a gap in the head. Burrweed, aquatic plant with spiky green balls. Arrowhead, leaves shaped like large arrow points. Pickerel weed, blue flower spikes in shallow water. Water hyacinth, floating plant with bulbous stems. Water lettuce, floating rosettes of velvet leaves. Eelgrass, long ribbon leaves in salt water. Turtle grass, wide leaves forming underwater meadows. Cordgrass, salt-tolerant grass in coastal marshes. Salt marsh hay, fine grass used for coastal mulching. Reed canary grass, spreading grass in wet ditches. Giant reed, very tall stem used for woodwind reeds. Common reed, Phragmites, invasive grass in wetlands. Needlegrass, sharp seeds that twist into the ground. Esparto grass, tough grass used for making paper. Marram grass, grass that stabilizes sand dunes. Sea oats, protected grass on southeastern dunes. Red fescue, reddish base on fine-leaved grass. Chewings fescue, bunch-type fine fescue. Hard fescue, very drought-tolerant fine grass. Sheets fescue, small tufts used for erosion control. Buffalo grass, spreading stolons in the short-grass prairie. Curly mesquite grass, native of the southwest. Galleta grass, tough perennial grass of the desert. Indian rice grass, airy seed heads on a bunch grass. Teff, tiny grain used in Ethiopian cooking. Quinoa, not a true grass but produces grain-like seeds. Amaranth, broad-leaved plant with edible seeds. Buckwheat, triangular seeds on a broad-leaved plant.
Wildflowers and perennials, 401 to 500. Common dandelion, yellow flowers and puffy seed heads. Chicory, blue flowers that open in the morning. Common mullein, large fuzzy leaves and a tall yellow spike. Queen Anne's lace, lacy white flowers with a purple center. Common milkweed, broad leaves and pink flower clusters. Butterfly weed, bright orange flowers that attract monarchs. Swamp milkweed, deep pink flowers in wet soil. Common goldenrod, bright yellow plumes in late summer. Stiff goldenrod, flat-topped yellow flower clusters. Zigzag goldenrod, stems that bend at each leaf node. New England aster, purple flowers with yellow centers. White wood aster, small white flowers in shaded forests. Sky blue aster, pale blue flowers on slender stems. Black-eyed Susan, yellow petals around a dark brown cone. Brown-eyed Susan, smaller flowers with multiple heads. Sweet coneflower, fragrant leaves and yellow petals. Purple coneflower, or echinacea, pinkish petals and a spiky center. Pale purple coneflower, narrow drooping pink petals. Wild bergamot, shaggy lavender flowers on square stems. Bee balm, bright red flowers that attract hummingbirds. Spotted bee balm, speckled flowers with pink bracts. Common yarrow, feathery leaves and flat white flowers. Common tansy, yellow button-like flowers in clusters. Oxeye daisy, white petals around a yellow center. Shasta daisy, larger garden version of the oxeye daisy. Tickseed, or caryopsis, bright yellow petals with notched tips. Lanceleaf caryopsis, narrow leaves and yellow blooms. Blanket flower, or gaillardia, red and yellow striped petals. Joe pie weed, tall stems with dusty pink flowers. Boneset, white flowers and leaves that wrap around the stem. White snakeroot, small white clusters in autumn woods. Ironweed, intense purple flowers on tall, stiff stems. Blazing star, or leotritis, spikes of fuzzy purple flowers. Rough blazing star, flower heads spaced out on the stem. Cardinal flower, brilliant red spikes in wet areas. Great blue lobelia, tall blue spikes in damp soil. Common blue wood sedge, wide leaves in the shade. Jack in the pulpit, a hooded bract over a central spike. Mayapple, large umbrella leaves with a hidden white flower. Bloodroot, white flowers and sap that is bright red.
Trillium, 3 leaves and a single 3-petaled flower. Red trillium, dark red flowers that smell like meat. Dutchman's breeches, flowers that look like hanging white pants. Wild ginger, heart-shaped leaves and hidden brown flowers. Solomon's seal, arching stems with hanging white bells. False Solomon's seal, flower clusters at the end of the stem. Wild geranium, 5-petaled pink flowers in the woods. Virginia bluebells, pink buds that open into blue bells. Spring beauty, small white flowers with pink stripes. Trout lily, mottled leaves and yellow nodding flowers. Wild columbine, red and yellow flowers with long spurs. Blue wild indigo, tall spikes of pea-like blue flowers. White wild indigo, creamy white flowers on a large plant. Wild lupine, spikes of blue flowers on palmate leaves. Prickly pear cactus, yellow flowers on flat thorny pads. Common evening primrose, yellow flowers that open at night. Sundrops, yellow flowers that open during the day. Fireweed, pink flower spikes in burned-over areas. Common St. John's wort, yellow flowers with black dots. Common plantain, low leaves with a tall seed spike. Broadleaf plantain, very wide leaves in lawns. Common ragweed, green flowers that produce much pollen. Giant ragweed, very tall plant with 3-lobed leaves. Common burdock, large leaves and seeds with hooks. Bull thistle, prickly leaves and purple flower heads. Canada thistle, spreading thistle with small purple flowers. Common teasel, prickly stems and egg-shaped flower heads. Common lettuce, tall stems with milky sap and small flowers. Prickly lettuce, leaves that turn sideways to the sun. Common fleabane, small white daisies with many petals. Horseweed, tall single stem with tiny green flowers. Cudweed, small fuzzy plants with silver leaves. Common sunflower, very tall stem with a large yellow head. Maximilian sunflower, numerous flowers along a tall stem. Jerusalem artichoke, sunflower with edible tuberous roots. Cup plant, leaves that form a cup around the stem. Compass plant, large leaves that point north and south. Prairie dock, giant heart-shaped leaves at the base. Wild quinine, rough leaves and white cauliflower-like flowers. Rattlesnake master, spiny leaves and white globe flowers. Evening lychnis, white flowers that open in the evening. Night flowering catchfly, sticky stems and white blooms. Bladder campion, flowers with a swollen green base. White campion, similar to evening lychnis but sturdier. Red campion, bright pink flowers in shady edges. Forget-me-nots, tiny blue flowers with yellow centers. Viper's bugloss, blue flowers on a prickly spotted stem. Common comfrey, large hairy leaves and drooping bells. Borage, blue star-shaped flowers that taste like cucumber. Common toadflax, yellow and orange butter and eggs flowers. Common speedwell, tiny blue flowers on a low mat. Moth mullein, white or yellow flowers on a slender spike. Self-heal, purple flower heads on a low square stem. Motherwort, jagged leaves and tiny pink flowers on the stem. Catnip, fuzzy leaves that attract cats. Ground ivy, creeping stems with small purple flowers. Henbit, purple flowers and rounded wrapping leaves. Purple dead netley, upper leaves that are tinted purple. Horehound, white fuzzy leaves used in candy. Spearmint, pointed leaves with a fresh mint scent.
6. Culinary herbs, vegetables, and fruit crops, 501 to 600. Peppermint, dark green leaves with a sharp, cooling menthol scent. Apple mint, fuzzy light green leaves with a hint of fruitiness.
Chocolate mint, dark stems and a scent reminiscent of candy. Rosemary, needle-like leaves on a woody upright shrub. Thyme, tiny oval leaves on low-growing wiry stems. Lemon thyme, small leaves with a distinct citrus aroma. French tarragon, long, slender leaves with a faint licorice taste. Oregano, small, flavorful leaves used extensively in Mediterranean cooking. Sweet basil, large, glossy green leaves used for pesto. Holy basil, spicier leaves with a clove-like scent. Dill, feathery blue-green leaves and yellow umbel flowers. Cilantro, parsley-like leaves with a pungent, fresh aroma. Flat-leaf parsley, deeply divided leaves with a clean, grassy taste. Curly parsley, highly ruffled leaves used primarily for garnish. Chives, hollow grass-like leaves with a mild onion flavor. Garlic chives, flat leaves with a subtle garlic aroma. Sage, soft gray-green leaves with a velvety texture. Purple sage, lavender-tinted leaves on a compact shrub. Marjoram, sweet citrusy leaves similar to oregano. Summer savory, narrow leaves with a peppery, spicy flavor. Winter savory, darker, stiffer leaves on a perennial herb. Lovage, large leaves that taste and smell like celery. Garden sorrel, broad leaves with a sharp lemony acidity. Fennel, bulbous base with feathery leaves and anise flavor. Caraway, feathery leaves and seeds used for rye bread. Cumin, small delicate plant producing aromatic spice seeds. Anise, plant with white flowers and licorice-flavored seeds. Borage, blue star-shaped flowers and cucumber-scented leaves. Chervil, delicate leaves with a mild parsley anise flavor. Lemon balm, heart-shaped leaves that smell strongly of lemon. Lavender, fragrant purple flower spikes and gray-green foliage. Chamomile, small daisy-like flowers used for herbal tea. Calendula, bright orange petals used in salves and soups. Stevia, sweet-tasting leaves used as a natural sugar substitute. Rhubarb, thick red stalks with large, poisonous green leaves. Asparagus, tender green spears that emerge from the soil. Artichoke, large silver-green leaves and edible flower buds. Cardoon, a relative of the artichoke with edible silver stalks. Kale, curly or flat leaves that are highly nutrient-dense. Swiss chard, large leaves with colorful, crunchy midribs. Spinach, smooth or savoyed green leaves grown in cool weather. Arugula, peppery lobed leaves used in fresh salads. Leaf lettuce, loose leaves in shades of green or red. Romaine lettuce, long upright heads with a crunchy midrib. Iceberg lettuce, dense, crisp spheres of pale green leaves. Endive, bitter, curly leaves used in gourmet salads. Radicchio, purple and white leaves with a bitter crunch. Cabbage, firm, heavy heads of green, red, or white leaves. Brussels sprouts, miniature cabbage-like heads on a tall stalk. Broccoli, thick green stems with dense flower heads. Cauliflower, compact white curds of undeveloped flower buds. Kohlrabi, a swollen globe-shaped stem that tastes like cabbage. Garden pea, climbing vines with sweet, edible green pods. Snap pea, crisp, juicy pods eaten entirely whole. Snow pea, flat, tender pods used in stir-fry dishes. Green bean, long, slender pods grown on bushes or poles. Lima bean, large, flat seeds in a tough green pod. Soybean, fuzzy pods containing protein-rich beans. Chickpea, small, rounded seeds in short, inflated pods. Lentil, tiny lens-shaped seeds on a delicate vine. Fava bean, large, thick pods with substantial earthy beans. Potato, underground tubers with green leafy top growth. Sweet potato, tuberous roots of a trailing morning glory vine. Carrot, long orange taproots with feathery green tops. Parsnip, creamy white roots with sweet, nutty flavor. Radish, fast-growing, peppery roots in red or white. Beet, deep red roots and edible mineral-rich greens.
Turnip, white and purple roots grown for food and fodder. Rutabaga, large yellowish roots with a dense texture. Onion, layered bulbs with hollow green upright leaves. Shallot, small clustered bulbs with a delicate onion taste. Leek, thick white stalks with flat, overlapping blue-green leaves. Garlic, pungent bulbs composed of several individual cloves. Tomato, fleshy red fruit on a hairy aromatic vine. Eggplant, glossy purple fruit with a spongy white interior. Bell pepper, blocky fruit in green, red, yellow, or orange. Jalapeno, small spicy green peppers with thick walls. Habanero, small lantern-shaped peppers with intense heat. Cucumber, long watery fruit on a climbing prickly vine. Zucchini, cylindrical summer squash with a mild flavor. Yellow squash, bottleneck-shaped fruit with a tender skin. Pumpkin, large orange winter squash with a thick rind. Butternut squash, tan pear-shaped squash with orange flesh. Acorn squash, small ribbed squash shaped like an acorn. Watermelon, large heavy fruit with red watery interior. Cantaloupe, netted rind with sweet orange musk-flavored flesh. Honeydew, smooth green rind with pale sweet green flesh. Strawberry, low-growing plants with red seed-studded berries. Raspberry, thorny canes with delicate hollow red berries. Blackberry, strong prickly canes with solid dark purple berries. Blueberry, woody shrubs with clusters of dusty blue fruit. Cranberry, low-growing vines found in acidic peat bogs. Grapevine, climbing woody vines with clusters of sweet fruit. Kiwi, fuzzy brown fruit on a vigorous woody vine. Pineapple, spiky-leaved plant with a large tropical fruit. Pineapple, spiky-leaved plant with a large tropical fruit. Banana, large soft-stemmed plant with hanging fruit clusters. Papaya, soft-wooded tree with large melon-like fruit. Mango, evergreen tree with large stone-containing fruit. Pomegranate, deciduous shrub with leathery seed-filled fruit. Fig, broad-leaved tree producing sweet, seedy fruit.
Mosses, liverworts, and primitive plants, 601 to 700. Sphagnum moss, spongy green moss that holds vast amounts of water. Sheet moss, flat green carpets found on logs and stones. Mood moss, thick mounded tufts that look like green cushions. Haircap moss, upright stems that resemble tiny pine trees. Fern moss, delicate feathery branches that look like miniature ferns. Pincushion moss, small dense domes of silvery green color. Peat moss, decayed sphagnum used as a soil amendment. Java moss, an aquatic moss used in fish tanks. Tree moss, moss that grows on a central trunk like a tree. Fire moss, reddish-brown moss that colonizes burnt soil. Silver moss, pale moss found in the cracks of city sidewalks. Broom moss, moss with leaves that all point in one direction. Plume moss, highly branched moss with a feathery appearance. Ribbed bog moss, moss with distinct ridges along its leaves. Swan's neck moss, moss with capsules that curve like a bird's neck. Common liverwort, flat ribbon-like green structures on wet soil. Leafy liverwort, primitive plants with leaves arranged in 2 rows. Hornwort, small green rosettes with horn-shaped spore cases. Quillwort, aquatic primitive plants with hollow quill-like leaves. Common horsetail, green jointed stems with high silica content. Scouring rush, darker unbranched horsetail used for polishing. Field horsetail, sterile green stems appearing after fertile brown ones. Club moss, primitive evergreen plants that resemble ground pine. Ground cedar, club moss with scale-like leaves. Running club moss, long trailing stems that root as they grow. Stiff club moss, upright unbranched stems with needle-like leaves. Spike moss, tiny fern-like mosses that produce 2 types of spores. Resurrection moss, moss that turns brown and curls when dry, then greens. Reindeer lichen, a pale, branched lichen that grows on the tundra. British soldiers, lichen with bright red fruiting bodies at the tips. Old man's beard, long, stringy lichen hanging from tree branches. Wolf lichen, bright chartreuse green lichen found on conifers. Lungwort lichen, large, textured lichen that looks like lung tissue. Orange sea lichen, bright orange patches found on coastal rocks. Map lichen, lichen that forms crusts resembling a topographic map. Oak moss, lichen used in the perfume industry for earthy notes. Shield lichen, circular gray-green lichen on smooth bark. Script lichen, thin crustose lichen that looks like black writing. Rock tripe, edible leathery lichen found on mountain rocks. Bearded lichen, dense bushy lichen on alpine trees. Cup lichen, lichen with tiny goblet-shaped structures. Pixie cup, a specific cup lichen with a dusty green color. Dust lichen, powdery green lichen found in dry, shaded areas. Sunburst lichen, brilliant yellow lichen that thrives in sunlight. Jewel lichen, tiny, colorful lichen found on limestone. Velvet lichen, lichen with a soft, fuzzy surface texture. Turban lichen, lichen with brown, puffed-up fruiting bodies. Matchstick lichen, slender stalks with brown or red tips. Cinder lichen, dark, charred-looking lichen on volcanic rock. Star lichen, radiating lobes that form a star-like shape. Stonewort, complex algae that looks like a submerged plant. Bracken fern, coarse, large ferns found on moors and hills. Ostrich fern, elegant vase-shaped ferns with edible fiddleheads. Lady fern, delicate, lacy fronds that prefer damp shade. Sensitive fern, fronds that wither quickly at the first frost. Christmas fern, evergreen fronds that stay green in winter. Royal fern, large ferns with flower-like fertile spikes. Cinnamon fern, named for its rusty brown spore-bearing stalks. Interrupted fern, fertile leaflets located in the middle of the frond. Maidenhair fern, fan-shaped leaflets on wiry black stems. Walking fern, fern with long tips that root when they touch soil. Hart's tongue fern, rare fern with long, undivided leathery leaves. Ebony spleenwort, small ferns with a dark, glossy midrib. Maidenhair spleenwort, tiny ferns growing in limestone cracks. Bulblet fern, fern that produces small bulbs on its leaves. Hay-scented fern, fronds that smell like fresh hay when crushed. Marsh fern, fern found in sunny, wet meadow areas. New York fern, fern with fronds that taper at both ends. Marginal wood fern, sori arranged on the margins of the leaflets. Spinulous wood fern, finely divided evergreen lacy fronds. Long beech fern, triangular fronds with a downward-pointing pair. Goldie's fern, a very large and robust forest fern. Chain fern, sori arranged in chain-like rows on the underside. Rock polypody, small evergreen ferns found on boulders. Licorice fern, a polypody with a licorice-flavored rhizome. Sword fern, stiff, upright evergreen fronds in western forests. Deer fern, two types of fronds, sterile flat ones and tall fertile ones. Five-finger fern, western maidenhair with a radiating branch pattern. Azolla, water fern, tiny floating ferns that turn red in sun. Salvinia, floating aquatic fern with hairy water-repellent leaves. Pillwort, grass-like fern that produces hard pill-like spores. Moonwort, small primitive fern with grape-like spore clusters. Adder's tongue, a single leaf with a narrow spore-bearing spike. Grape fern, fern with fleshy stems and leathery leaves. Rattlesnake fern, a common grape fern with finely cut leaves. Silver tree fern, large fern with a trunk and silvery frond bottoms. Australian tree fern, rapidly growing fern with a thick fibrous trunk. Tasmanian tree fern, hardy tree fern with a dark mossy trunk. Bird's nest fern,
epiphytic fern forming a central green nest. Staghorn fern, large antler-shaped fronds that grow on trees. Elkhorn fern, similar to staghorn but with more slender divisions. Button fern, small leathery round leaflets on dark stems. Kangaroo paw fern, leathery deeply lobed fronds that spread by rhizomes. Rabbit's foot fern, fern with fuzzy crawling surface roots. Bear's paw fern, fern with very thick golden-haired rhizomes. Blue star fern, glossy blue lobed fronds on an easy-to-grow plant. Holly fern, stiff dark green leaflets that resemble holly leaves. Japanese painted fern, silver, purple, and green variegated fronds. Autumn fern, new growth that emerges in a coppery red color. Tuberous sword fern, fern that produces small starchy nodules on roots.
Shrubs, vines, and woody perennials, 701 through 800. Common lilac, heart-shaped leaves and fragrant purple flowers. Persian lilac, smaller leaves and more delicate flower clusters. Forsythia, bright yellow flowers that appear before the leaves. Rose of Sharon, hibiscus-like flowers in late summer heat. Hydrangea, large globe-like or lace-cap flower heads. PG hydrangea, cone-shaped flower clusters that turn pink. Oak leaf hydrangea, deeply lobed leaves that turn red in fall. Butterfly bush, long spikes of flowers that attract insects. Burning bush, winged stems and brilliant scarlet autumn foliage. Privet, fast-growing shrub used for dense garden hedges. Boxwood, small evergreen leaves that can be clipped into shapes. Japanese barberry, thorny stems with small red berries. Winterberry, a deciduous holly with bright red winter fruit. Inkberry, an evergreen holly with dark black berries. Mountain laurel, glossy leaves and geometric pink flowers. Catawba rhododendron, large leathery leaves and purple blooms. Azalea, deciduous or evergreen shrubs with colorful flowers. Pyrrhus, evergreen shrub with drooping white flower bells. Enchanthus, bell-shaped flowers with delicate red veins. Spirea, arching branches covered in tiny white or pink flowers. Potentilla, long-blooming shrub with yellow five-petaled flowers. Ninebark, shrub with bark that peels in many thin layers. Serviceberry, early white flowers followed by blue-black fruit. Chokeberry, shrub with white flowers and astringent berries. Witch hazel, yellow ribbon-like flowers that bloom in winter. Fothergilla, white bottlebrush flowers and great fall color. Sweet shrub, dark red flowers that smell like strawberry or spice. Vivernum, diverse shrubs with berries and fall interest. Snowball bush, a vivernum with large round white flower heads. Arrowwood, vivernum with very straight stems and blue berries. Elderberry, large flat clusters of flowers and dark fruit. Beautyberry, small purple berries that encircle the stem. Dogwood shrub, red or yellow stems that provide winter color. Sumac, shrub with large compound leaves and red fruit cones. Staghorn sumac, fuzzy red stems that look like deer antlers. Smokebush, fluffy flower clusters that look like puffs of smoke. Common juniper, sharp needles and aromatic blue berries. Yew shrub, dark evergreen needles and red fleshy fruits. Mugo pine, a dwarf mounded pine tree for small spaces. Blue star juniper, low-growing juniper with silvery blue needles. Russian sage, silvery leaves and airy lavender flower spikes. English ivy, evergreen vine that climbs using aerial roots. Boston ivy, deciduous vine that turns bright red in autumn. Virginia creeper, five-leaved vine with blue berries and red fall color. Clematis, climbing vine with large showy flat flowers. Sweet autumn clematis, small white flowers with a heavy scent. Wisteria, vigorous vine with long hanging purple racemes. Trumpet vine, orange tubular flowers that attract hummingbirds. Honeysuckle, fragrant tubular flowers on a twining vine. Japanese honeysuckle, highly invasive vine with white/yellow flowers. Bittersweet, vine with orange husks and bright red berries. Grape, woody vine with large leaves and edible fruit. Climbing hydrangea, woody vine with white lace-cap flowers. Silver lace vine, rapidly growing vine with masses of white flowers. Morning glory, annual vine with heart leaves and trumpet flowers. Moonflower, morning glory that opens large white flowers at night. Cypress vine, fine feathery leaves and tiny red star flowers. Scarlet runner bean, edible bean with brilliant red flowers. Black-eyed Susan vine, small orange flowers with a dark center. Passion flower, exotic complex flowers on a tendrilled vine. Dutchman's pipe, vine with large heart leaves and pipe-shaped flowers. Hops, climbing vine used for bittering in beer production. Winter creeper, evergreen ground cover or climbing vine. Periwinkle, ground cover with glossy leaves and blue flowers. Pachysandra, evergreen ground cover for deep shade areas. Ajuga, ground cover with purple foliage and blue flower spikes. Sweet woodruff, fine leaves and tiny white flowers for shade. Bearberry, low evergreen shrub found in sandy or rocky soil. Cotoneaster, ground-hugging shrub with red berries in fall. Rock rose, sun-loving shrub with paper-like flower petals. Heather, low shrub with tiny leaves and pink/white bells. Heath, similar to heather but blooms in the winter/spring. Daphne, small shrub with extremely fragrant spring flowers. Abelia, arching shrub with small, long-lasting pink flowers. Weigela, funnel-shaped flowers in shades of red or pink. Mock orange, shrub with white flowers that smell like citrus. Crepe myrtle, shrub or tree with crinkled flowers and peeling bark. Oleander, evergreen shrub with toxic leaves and colorful blooms. Hibiscus, tropical-looking large flowers on a woody stem. Camellia, shiny leaves and rose-like winter flowers. Jasmine, climbing or shrubby plants with sweet-scented blooms. Cape honeysuckle, orange-red flowers on a scrambling shrub. Boxleaf azara, small evergreen leaves that smell like vanilla. Haybee, evergreen shrubs from New Zealand with spiked flowers. Manzanita, red-barked shrub with urn-shaped flowers. Ceanothus, shrub with clusters of tiny, intense blue flowers. Toyon, evergreen shrub with bright red winter berries. Coyote brush, hardy evergreen shrub found in coastal scrub. Sagebrush, silvery gray shrub found in arid western regions. Rabbit brush, yellow-flowered shrub of the high desert. Gorse, extremely thorny shrub with yellow pea-like flowers. Broom, slender green stems with bright yellow flowers. Sea buckthorn, thorny shrub with orange vitamin-rich berries. Buttonbush, wetland shrub with perfectly round flower heads. Sweetgale, aromatic shrub found in northern wetlands. Leatherleaf, evergreen shrub of peat bogs and marshes. Bog laurel, small shrub with pink flowers found in bogs. Labrador tea, shrub with fuzzy-bottomed leaves used for tea. Highbush blueberry, tall shrub producing edible blue fruit.
Wetland, aquatic, and coastal plants, 800, 1 through 900. Cattail, tall leaves and a brown cigar-shaped seed head. Narrow-leaf cattail, thinner leaves than the common variety. Common reed, very tall grass found in disturbed wetlands. Bulrush, grass-like plant with a round or triangular stem. Great bulrush, tall swaying stems in deep wetland water. Soft-stem bulrush, spongy round stems found in marshes. Woolgrass, a sedge with fuzzy brown seed clusters. Sawgrass, sharp-edged sedge found in the Everglades. Papyrus, tall sedge used for making ancient paper. Yellow flag iris, bright yellow flowers in wet ditch areas. Blue flag iris, native purple-blue flowers of the wetlands. Arrowhead, plants with large arrow-shaped leaves in water. Pickerel weed, spikes of blue flowers in shallow pond water. Lizard's tail, drooping white flower spikes in shaded swamps. Marsh marigold, bright yellow flowers in early spring wetlands. Skunk cabbage, large leaves and flowers that smell of rot. Sweet flag,
fragrant sword-shaped leaves in wet soil. Water plantain, small white flowers on a tall, airy stalk. Water horsetail, green jointed stems growing out of the mud. Burr reed, aquatic plant with spiky green seed balls. Wild rice, tall grass with edible dark-colored grains. Water lily, large floating leaves and cup-shaped flowers. Yellow pond lily, thick yellow flowers that rarely open fully. Lotus, large leaves and flowers held high above the water. Fragrant water lily, white sweet-scented flowers on the water. Victoria water lily, giant floating leaves with turned-up edges. Water shield, small oval floating leaves with a slimy coating. Duckweed, minute green floating leaves with a single root. Mealman, the smallest flowering plant, looks like green dust. Bladderwort, underwater traps that catch tiny organisms. Coontail, submerged plant with leaves arranged in whorls. Hornwort, similar to coontail, found in slow-moving water. Eelgrass, submerged ribbon-like leaves in fresh water. Tapegrass, long, thin leaves that undulate in the current. Elodia, common aquarium plant with small dark green leaves. Water milfoil, feathery submerged leaves on a long stem. Hydrilla, invasive aquatic plant that grows in thick mats. Fanwort, submerged leaves shaped like delicate green fans. Waterweed, diverse group of plants with floating or submerged leaves. Curly-leaf waterweed, invasive plant with crinkled leaf edges. Water hyacinth, floating plant with purple flowers and air-filled stems. Water lettuce, floating plant that looks like a head of lettuce. Frogbit, small heart-shaped floating leaves in still water. Mosquito fern, tiny floating fern that fixes nitrogen. Floating heart, small leaves that look like miniature water lilies. Water clover, four-leaf clover-like leaves floating on water. Parrot feather, emergent plant with blue-green feathery leaves. Marsh pennywort, round umbrella-like leaves in wet mud. Water primrose, yellow flowers on a sprawling aquatic stem. Water pimpernel, small delicate white flowers in wet areas. Glasswort, fleshy salt-tolerant plant found in salt marshes. Sea salt hay, fine wiry grass found in coastal meadows. Sea lavender, delicate purple flowers in salt-sprayed areas. Sea rocket, fleshy-leaved plant with small pale flowers on dunes. Beach pea, purple-flowered vine found on sandy shorelines. Sea oats, tall, protected grass that stabilizes sand dunes. Marram grass, tough grass with deep roots for dune building. Sand verbena, pink or yellow flowers on coastal sands. Beach strawberry, wild strawberry found on the Pacific coast. Saltgrass, low-growing grass found in alkaline or salty soils. Cordgrass, tall grass that forms the base of the salt marsh. Black needle rush, dark, sharp-tipped rush in coastal marshes. Mangrove, red, tree with prop roots that grow in salt water. Mangrove, black, tree with snorkel-like roots for breathing. Mangrove, white, found further inland than other mangroves. Turtle grass, underwater seagrass with wide, flat leaves. Manee grass, Seagrass with cylindrical, thread-like leaves. Shoal grass, rapidly growing seagrass in shallow waters. Surf grass, seagrass found on rocky, wave-swept shores. Sea kelp, massive brown algae that forms underwater forests. Bull kelp, kelp with a large hollow bulb for floating. Giant kelp, the largest sea kelp, it grows up to 2 feet a day. Sea lettuce, bright green, thin algae that looks like lettuce. Rockweed, brown algae with air bladders that pops when stepped on. Irish moss, red algae used as a thickening agent in food. Dulse, edible red algae harvested from northern coasts. Nori, thin edible algae used for wrapping sushi. Sugar kelp, sweet-tasting kelp used in various cuisines. Oarweed, broad-fronded kelp found in deep coastal waters. Dead man's fingers, green algae with spongy finger-like branches. Samphire, fleshy, salty plant used as a gourmet vegetable. Sea kale, large blue-gray leaves found on shingle beaches. Sea holly, spiny-leaved plant with metallic blue flowers. Sea thrift, mounded plant with pink globe flowers on cliffs. Sea campion, white flowers with a swollen veined base. Oyster plant, fleshy leaves that are said to taste like oysters. Scurvy grass, small plant once used by sailors to prevent scurvy. Common reed, found in almost every wetland across the globe. Giant cane, the only native bamboo of the southeast U.S. Switchgrass, deep-rooted grass found in moist prairies. Indian grass, golden-headed grass of the tall grass prairie. Big bluestem, often called turkeyfoot for its seed head shape. Little bluestem, a shorter clump-forming grass. Side oats grama, grass with seeds hanging from one side of the stem. Blue grama, short grass with eyelash-like flower heads. Buffalo grass, low spreading grass of the dry plains. Prairie dropseed, fine textured grass with a unique scent. Purple lovegrass creates a purple haze in late summer fields. Muley grass, pink cloud-like flower heads in autumn. Feather reed grass, upright stalks that remain stiff all winter.
Desert rare and unique flora, 900 to 1,000. Saguaro cactus, iconic tall cactus with large branching arms. Barrel cactus, round, ribbed cactus with heavy thorns. Prickly pear, flat, paddle-shaped stems with edible fruit. Cholla cactus, segmented stems with very sharp, detaching spines. Organ pipe cactus, multiple vertical stems rising from the base. Old man cactus, covered in long, white hair-like spines. Golden barrel, a round cactus with brilliant yellow thorns. Fishhook cactus, small cactus with spines that curve like hooks. Peyote, a small, spineless cactus found in the southwest. Living rock, a spineless cactus that blends in with stones. Star cactus, round, flat cactus with a star-like pattern. Christmas cactus, epiphytic cactus with flat, segmented stems. Easter cactus, similar to Christmas cactus but blooms in spring. Night-blooming cereus, cactus with flowers that open for only one night. Totem pole cactus, a knobby, spineless variety of cactus. Joshua tree, large yucca with shaggy bark and spiky leaves. Mojave yucca, stiff-leaved plant found in the high desert. Banana yucca, produces large, fleshy, edible fruit.
Soap tree yucca, used by pioneers to create a soap-like lather. Our Lord's candle, yucca with a massive white flower spike. Century plant, a large agave that blooms once and then dies. Blue agave, the primary source for the production of tequila. Queen Victoria agave, compact agave with white geometric markings. Octopus agave, long wavy leaves that resemble tentacles. Ocotillo, long thorny whips that sprout leaves after rain. Boojum tree, a bizarre tapering desert tree from Baja. Elephant tree, thick-trunked tree with aromatic sap. Palo verde, tree with green bark that can perform photosynthesis. Mesquite, thorny tree with sweet edible seed pods. Desert ironwood, extremely dense wood from a desert tree. Creosote bush, strong-smelling shrub that dominates desert floors. Brittle bush, silvery-leaved shrub with yellow daisy flowers. Smoke tree, desert, leafless gray-blue shrub that looks like smoke. Desert willow, not a true willow, has beautiful trumpet flowers. Desert lily, a white-flowered bulb found in sandy plains. Sand verbena, carpets the desert floor with pink after rain. Desert marigold, yellow-flowered perennial with fuzzy leaves. Ghost flower, pale translucent flowers found in the Mojave. Welwitschia, a rare Namibian plant with only 2 lifelong leaves. Baobab, tree with a massive trunk used for water storage. Dragon blood tree, produces a thick red resin like blood. Aloe dichotoma, a large succulent tree from South Africa. Lithops, small succulents that look exactly like pebbles. Fenestraria, succulent with transparent window tips. Stipelia, star-shaped flowers that smell like rotting meat. Adenium, desert rose, thick-stemmed plant with pink flowers. Pachypodium, thorny succulent-stemmed tree with white blooms. Euphorbia candelabra, succulent that looks like a giant cactus. Firestick plant, euphorbia with thin, colorful, upright stems. Medusa's head, euphorbia with many snake-like branches. Cycad, primitive palm-like plant dating back to dinosaurs. Encephalartos, a rare and valuable genus of African cycads. Zamia, small hardy cycads with stiff leathery leaves. Ginkgo biloba, a living fossil with unique fan-shaped leaves. Monkey puzzle tree, sharp triangular leaves on a prehistoric tree. Wollemi pine, a rare tree recently discovered in an Australian canyon. Bristlecone pine, the world's oldest living non-clonal organism. Giant sequoia, the most massive single tree on the planet. Coast redwood, the tallest living tree species in the world. Montezuma cypress, large ancient tree found in Mexico. Banyan tree, a fig tree that spreads via aerial roots. Strangler fig, grows around a host tree, eventually replacing it. Bodhi tree, the sacred fig tree under which Buddha meditated. Upas tree, infamous for its toxic sap used in poison darts. Rainbow eucalyptus, has bark that peels to reveal many colors. Kauri tree, giant, long-lived conifer from New Zealand. Cedar of Lebanon, mentioned in ancient texts for its quality wood. Frankincense tree, produces a resin used for sacred incense. Myrrh tree, produces a bitter resin used in ancient medicine. Copal tree, source of a resin used for incense and varnish. Victoria amazonica, giant water lily with leaves over 8 feet wide. Rafflesia, produces the world's largest and smelliest flower. Titan arum, known as the corpse flower for its stench. Hadnora, a parasitic plant that grows mostly underground. Pitcher plant, carnivorous plant with pitfall traps for insects. Nepenthes, tropical pitcher plant that grows as a vine. Sarracenia, North American pitcher plant found in bogs. Venus flytrap, snaps shut when its trigger hairs are touched. Sundew, uses sticky, glistening droplets to trap prey. Cape sundew, a common and easy-to-grow South African sundew. King sundew, the largest of all sundew species. Butterwort, fleshy-leaved plant with a sticky surface. Bladderwort, features the fastest-moving traps in the plant kingdom. Waterwheel plant, a rootless, floating carnivorous plant. Portuguese sundew, grows in dry soil, unlike most carnivores. Sun pitcher, carnivorous plant from the Venezuelan tepuy. Cobra lily, hooded pitcher plant found in the Pacific Northwest. Albino redwood, a rare redwood that lacks all chlorophyll. Cuscuta, or daughter, a leafless parasitic vine that steals nutrients. Mistletoe, parasitic plant that grows high in tree branches. Indian pipe, a white leafless plant that lacks chlorophyll. Snow plant, a brilliant red plant that emerges after snowmelt. Bee orchid, flower that mimics the appearance of a bee. Monkey face orchid, flower that looks like a small monkey's face. Ghost orchid, a rare leafless orchid found in Florida swamps. Dead horse arum, flower that mimics the smell and look of a carcass. Pelican flower, large, uniquely shaped flower with a tail. Voodoo lily, features a large, dark spathe and a strong odor. Black bat flower, unusual flower with long, whisker-like bracts. Rhodia, an evergreen perennial, the last item on this list,